Gary, now I know I was wrong. I messed up, and now you're gone. Gary, I'm sorry I neglected you. Oh, I never expected you to run away and leave me feeling this empty.
Hello, and welcome to Verona News Radio. I'm your host, Brad Corsi, here with
Peter Sims. Today we will be discussing multiple topics about the book Romeo and Juliet.
So we all know the story of Romeo and Juliet right now, but let's just go over it. So Romeo, currently mourning over his parting with Rosaline, goes to the Capulet ball and meets the young Juliet. It was love at first sight. One thing led to another, and they snuck off to get married. Friar Lawrence marries the two in secret, with his plan being that the marriage would unite the houses. Then everyone starts dying. Tybalt kills Mercutio. Romeo kills Tybalt to avenge the death of his friend. The prince exiles Romeo for this, and Juliet is forced to marry Paris, who she is betrothed to, although she married Romeo in secret. We all know she does not want to do this, so the friar gives her a sleeping potion. Romeo returns to Verona and finds Juliet, who he thinks to be dead, so he kills himself to be with her in death. Juliet wakes up and sees Romeo dead, and she too kills herself to join him. In the end, this brings peace to the houses of Montagues and Capulets. And that's about it. So here's a hot topic that has been stirring as a result of the book. Who is responsible for the deaths of Romeo and Juliet? Peter, what's your take on this?
Well, Brad, I believe Romeo is responsible for the death of himself and his love, Juliet. There are many clear explanations to why it is his fault. If Romeo wasn't so selfish to go to this ball, the two would have never have met. Also, if Romeo never killed Tybalt, this whole plan could go a whole lot smoother. You see, he would have never been exiled, therefore he would never have to sneak back in, and he would be fully aware of the plan taking place. One last reason we could place the blame on Romeo and Juliet is because it was their own decision to take their own lives. Suicide is a personal issue, and their own ultimate decision, not anyone else's. So who do you think is to blame for the horrible deaths of these two lovers, Brad?
Alright, I see where you're coming from, but I'd have to say the alpha male of this story is the man responsible, Big Friar Lawrence. The friar had full knowledge that Romeo and Juliet were of rival houses, and he made the ill-advised decision to marry the two. He thought it would unite the two houses, but ultimately it brought more dissension between them. It was a relationship that could never be, but the friar tried to force it. I agree that Romeo made some poor decisions that you have pointed out, but he would never have the opportunity to make these decisions if it wasn't for the friar's actions.
Well, Brad, I do see what direction you're heading in, but if anything, this guy just wanted to help out, put a little frosting on that cake. All he was trying to do was help the young lovers out and promote their true love they both shared for each other. He could never have predicted the future, and I'm sure the suicide part would have never crossed his mind.
I'd have to agree, but I think the ultimate cause and effect that occurred finds its roots in Friar Lawrence's choices. So what does the crowd think about this? Who do you guys think is responsible for their deaths? Alright, we're here today with a special guest. Peter, you want to welcome him in?
Today we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Luke Price, also known as El Prezi 22.
Luke, you want to tell us about your favorite part of the story?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the end of the book because it was a big plot twist. When Romeo came back and killed himself so he could be with Juliet, only for Juliet to wake up and do the same. It was sad to see their lives end like this, but it ultimately brought peace to both houses. I respect Shakespeare so much more as a writer after reading Romeo and Juliet.
Well, thank you, Luke, for your great input on the story.
Yeah, thanks for coming, pal.
Alright, and now for our last segment. Who was your favorite character in Romeo and Juliet? We all know this great book is full of a variety of interesting characters, but who did you find to be the best, Brad?
Personally, I found Mercutio to be the best character in Romeo and Juliet. His witty attitude and aggressive manner helped make for many memorable scenes in the story. He also delivers an interesting point as he is near death. He points out that he believes the feud between the houses has become trivial, and it would be for the best for it to be put to an end.
A great character indeed, but I'd have to say my favorite character had to be Benvolio. He was the cousin of our main character Romeo. He was a kind, affectionate soul who only cared for the safety of everyone, which is quite surprising considering the beef between the two houses. He did become the doormat, meaning he was too nice and people were not intimidated at all. They felt like they could walk right over him without being stopped. He had no control over the fighting.
Good to hear, Peter. Before we go, let's give a quick thank you to our sponsors. Guy Fieri,
Extendo on Instagram.
2010 Teddy Meehan,
And last but not least, Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage. Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Verona Radio, and we'll see you next time.